Hey guys, Jessie here. So I was scrolling through Pinterest the other day when I found this screen cap from Tumblr and it inspired me to make a video. Now, it's not the photo, though it is pretty, that prompted this video. What was written underneath it did. As expected, people were fawning over the photo, which, I mean, why wouldn't they? It's gorgeous. But you'll see someone has asked,
why do fish and birds come through like it's a dang Disney movie?
Well, I'm here to burst your bubble, guys. Great photos like these usually don't come without a little Photoshop. I mean, maybe the photographer was able to take this cross shot of the water, but those fish and that bird just perfectly placed in between their heads? Most likely Photoshop. Now, before you all think I'm calling out photographers for doing this, I'm not. Nearly every professional photograph has at least a little Photoshop done to it. Even if it's just adjusting the lighting or contrast in the photo to make it look clearer and more attractive. It's not cheating, they are professionals who just know what they need to do to make a photo look the best it can. But anyway, you're probably wondering where I'm going with this. Well, I'm going to attempt to show you guys how a photo like this can be created. Now, starting off, I had to find a photo to work with, which was actually harder than I thought it would be. Like, I can't just steal someone's actual engagement photo. That would be weird, and probably illegal. So that leaves whatever stock photos I can find online for free, which was this photo here. That being said, as always, whatever stock photos I use here will be linked in the description. To save time, I went ahead and already cut some things out of the images I'll be using later. Like this bit I'll use in the background, just to make the photo a little bit more interesting. First thing I'm going to do now is make the water. I'll draw out a shape with the pen tool and then make that path a selection, which I will then fill in with a color I choose from the water in the background. Then, to make the water surface, I'm going to use this image here, and warp it into place before adjusting the color with a hue saturation adjustment layer to better match the color of the existing water. Now I need to blend it into the photo better, and I'll do this with a layer mask. That looks decent, but I feel like I need to warp the surface again just to make the lines here run a little bit more smoothly and parallel to the cross-cut water shape I made earlier. Alright, that's a lot better. Now, obviously I can't leave the shape opaque because it's water. It's supposed to be see-through. See what I did there? Huh? Anybody? Anyway, once I make this layer transparent, the surface layer behind it will peek through. So I need to paint that part of the surface layer away via layer mask. On to the underwater part. This will likely need several layers to get the effect I want. Because the water will be clearer up close, and the further out it goes, it will appear darker and more opaque looking. So let's get on it. I start out by playing around with the blending modes to figure out what kind of effect looks best. Hard light seems to be closest to what I want right now. But like I said, this is going to take multiple layers, so let's duplicate this one. I'm going to set this layer back to normal and play around with the opacity, because right now the water is just a little too clear for what I want at the moment. Actually, a gradient layer mask might help me achieve the effect I want. It'll make the foreground look clearer than the background. I'm going to duplicate again to see how I can make this better. I think if I adjust this color to appear more blue, it could blend nicely with the others. Let's set it to soft light. Now I'm going to duplicate the top water layer and do something similar to what I just did with the previous layer. Maybe set it to multiply. Alright, I think this is a good start, but now if you notice, the couple's legs don't look quite right. The water needs to be a little clearer there. So I'm going to paint it away a bit from the mask on these top water layers. Wait, why am I doing it this way? I cut out a copy of the couple earlier to make this easier on myself. There, that's a lot better. Now, keeping the selection, I need to make the couple show through just a little bit on the surface as well. To do this, I'm going to paint away on the mask where the couple stands, then duplicate this layer and paint back in on this mask what I took away on the other, and change the blending mode to overlay. This looks a little too clear again, so I'll lightly paint back in just a little bit of the top layer to make it more opaque. You'll notice another issue about now. The water surface isn't distorting the outline of the couple. To fix this, I need to go to the Liquify tool and use the Push tool to distort the couple we're covered by this water surface layer. Now that this is done, I need to go in with the Clone Stamp tool and paint the background over the couple where I made the distortion on the other layer. I also need to adjust the layer mask so that you can see this effect. So I probably should have done this before I adjusted the water surface layers. But hey, nobody's perfect. Now that this is done, I'm going to add an underwater photo filter to the group containing all my water layers. You know what? I think I'll add a photo filter to the sky as well to make it a little bit more blue. Yeah, it looks pretty now, but making the sky more blue would help the couple stand out a lot more. See? They stand out so much better now. However, now the clouds are purple and that just isn't a good look. At least not for what I'm trying to accomplish today. To fix this, I'm going to select the clouds and add a layer mask to my photo filter. But as you can see, just selecting the clouds left my sky looking a little rough. So to fix this, I'm going to go in and refine my mask until I'm satisfied. Next thing I want to do is add a Gaussian blur to the sand, just to make it a little less sharp because it's underwater. I'm also going to use a gradient in the layer mask to make this effect appear stronger the further it goes back in space. Now that I'm done with that, I'm going to create that wave light reflection thing effect. Is there a name for that? Hold on, I'll Google it. Okay, apparently it's called a crinkle pattern. So, to make the crinkle pattern, I'm going to create a new layer, fill it with black, then go up to Filter, Render, then Clouds. Next, I'm going to open the filter gallery and apply the stained glass filter. Once that's done, I'm going to go select the black lines using the Magic Wand tool, create a new layer, and then fill my selection with white. Actually, let's make that black so that I can see what I'm doing in my next step. I'm going to go to Filter, Distort, and then Ripple to get this effect here. Now, before I do anything else, I want to distort this layer so it looks like it's laying on the sea floor. Now, I recognize this doesn't look quite right perspective-wise, but I'll be fixing this later. Bear with me. I think I can make this work the lazy way, or I'll be nearly done and decide to scrap it later and do it over. If you've been here before, you already know which one it will likely be, but let me lie to myself for now, okay? Alright, I'm going to apply a Gaussian blur to this and then off to the Liquify tool to make this look a little bit more organic. And once again, have to go back and make my crinkle pattern black to see what I'm doing. And there we go. Much better. Now for the effect I want, I'm going to have my top crinkle pattern layer be brighter and sharper, and my bottom crinkle pattern layer to be a little bit more blurred and softer. As you can see, this gives a decent effect. Though now I think I want this to be a little bit more loose, so back to the Liquify tool I go. There, that's a lot better. But you're probably wondering,
but what about the bottom layer?
Well, if I select the bottom layer and go to Filter and select Liquify up at the top, rather than further down the list, it will repeat everything I just did to my bottom layer. Problem solved. Now I just need to adjust for depth, making the crinkle pattern fade out as it goes further into the water. I'm just going to make some more little adjustments to this before I move on. You know what, guys? I think my lazy way might not work. Shocker, I know. I kind of want my crinkle pattern to get smaller as it goes into the distance as it would in real life. And right now it's just kind of not doing that as much as I want it to. So hold on as I try to make this work. Okay, welcome back. So I stopped working last night and then went on to continue today. Thing is, I didn't record any of what I was doing up until this point. Yay! Luckily I didn't get too far, but what's changed is I blurred and darkened this land in the background a little, started darkening their clothes a little to make the areas closer to the water appear wet, and worked on this crinkle pattern, which I'm going to redo because I hate how it turned out. So let's pick up here. I'm going to repeat the same steps as before when I previously did the crinkle pattern, only this time I'm going to do like I should have done last time and duplicate the layer a few times and butt them together on the ends to make the layer have a greater surface area to work with when I distort it to fit the perspective of this photo. Okay, there we go so far, but I think I may have forgotten a step this time because it just doesn't look as glowy as my previous attempt here. Actually, you know what? Having these two together actually looks pretty good. I mean, I need to clean it up a little, but I actually like this. Cool. Now that I fixed that, I think I want to redo the water surface as well. Hold on. Alright, I think I'm in a good spot now to start adding in the animals. Let's start with the seagull. This one is pretty easy. I'm just going to shrink it so it looks small enough to be in the background and add a photo filter. I'm also going to add a Gaussian blur to make the bird look a little out of focus and in the distance. On to the fish. For my fish, I'm using these yellow tangs here. I chose this photo because it had several fish in different positions and would help in this looking a little bit more real. And as I said in the beginning of this video, I already cut some out. Now all I need to do is shrink and position them and then do some adjustments so they actually look like they are in the water. I did look online to see how big yellow tangs get so I wouldn't make them appear too big in the photo, and Google told me they can get up to 7 inches. So hopefully these look like they're 7 inches long. Now that I think I've gotten them where I want them, I need to work on making them look like they are under the water. And right now they're just a little too bright to look realistic in this shot. I'm going to start off by adding a photo filter. And I actually think before I continue I'm going to add some more fish and shadows, because these aren't ghost fish, they will have shadows. Alright, now, like with everything else, I want to blur these fish a little bit because they're underwater. And I'm going to add more blur to the fish as they progress further back into space. Now, because some of these fish are further away than others, I'm going to add a layer of the watercolor to the fish and increasing opacity the further back the fish appears in this scene. And once I'm done with that, I'm just going to check it over and touch some things up before moving on to the next step. Also, not gonna lie, I really wanted to add Cthulhu or something in the background about to grab one of them, but I knew I wouldn't have time to add it. Hashtag sadness. But if you've made it this far, then you should definitely go ahead and leave a comment, something like, OMG, I can't believe that guy dodged Cthulhu, just to mess with everyone else. It would totally make my day. Alright, now I'm gonna finish making their clothes look wet. To do this, I used adjustment layers to darken the fabric where I thought the water might have splashed up, and used the plastic wrap filter with a layer mask to give these areas a wet sheen. When doing this, I also had to take her dress into account. Her dress appears to be mostly a sheer white fabric under a thicker lace, And we all know white fabric tends to get a little see-through when it gets wet, especially if it's right up against the skin. Now, the thicker lace wouldn't have gone see-through, but that sheer fabric would have. So I used a photo filter and painted in the holes of the lace to give the effect the dress would likely have when wet. The thicker lace darkening and the sheer white fabric becoming translucent and her skin showing through. Now that that step is done, I'm going to do some finishing touches. The mask for the sky needs retouching, as does the sanding or the water. I'm going to use the patch tool just to blend the sand into the tide. Because remember, underneath the water I created is the actual water in the photo, and you don't want it to look weird. There's typically not a second ocean under the ocean, after all. Once I'm done with that, I'm painting a darker line below the surface of the water, as well as a lighter line above that line to mimic what it might look like through the camera lens taking a photo half submerged in water. The sky could maybe be a deeper shade of blue as well, so I'm going to play around with that a little bit. And the last thing I'm going to do, before just some regular minor touch-ups, is make the water appear clearer towards the front of the photo, if that makes sense. Right now, it's all just a little too blue, and by painting some of that away with the mask, brings more of the color of the sand in and makes it look just that more realistic. Okay, I'm gonna call this done. How did I do? If you think I did okay, then like up this video. Now, before I say goodbye, I'd like to feature this piece from artist Art Journal 77 on DeviantArt. This particular piece was painted in oils and looks quite amazing. If you'd like to see more of their work, then check out their links in the description. Also, if you'd like a chance for your art to be featured in a future video, then submit your work to me via social media. All my links are down below. Alright guys, thank you all for watching. If you'd like to see more, then check out my videos to the right. And if you haven't already and you'd like to be, then hit that subscribe button and bell icon so that you don't miss out on any future videos. Again, thank you all for watching and I'll see you all next week. Bye!